Welcome back to another episode of Kicking It with Coach Red, where we bring you all the news, stories, takes, and opinions about your favorite teams from the Pacific Northwest, from the good to the bad to the Mariners.
Red hot Mariners, baby.
Dude, so excited about the Mariners. I'm so excited that we're not going to talk about them until Monday. I'm going to let that fire keep on burning. We're almost 1 week since the start of the NFL draft last Thursday. So we're going to go ahead and break down each pick, kind of tell you what we think of the prospect, maybe team fit, bunch of different things as we go along, talking about a slew of picks. But before
London,
we
I
do that,
believe.
why don't we tell you a little bit about us? If you're looking for a guy that when I was in my early 20s, just like our first round pick, Gray Zabel, I enjoyed one or two Bush Lights. I've grown since then, and the Bush Light is out of my repertoire. It's all about vitamin R if I'm going light beer. But that's what you do when you're in the Pacific
Yeah.
Northwest, baby. And if you like someone like that, maybe you like someone like me, your boy, Coach Red. You can find me on X at the real Coach Red, on Instagram at the real underscore Coach Red, TikTok at the real Coach Red. Also, find the show over on YouTube. Search Kicking It with Coach Red, like, subscribe, hit that bell notification, and leave a comment or two. And if you're looking for a guy that is like Ricky White the third, late round sleeper with big upside, and he's gonna lock it down on special teams tonight. Tonight,
Sure.
it's Cain.
Yeah, okay. You can find me over on Twitter at K2406, TikTok and Twitch, K0624. Also follow the show's socials over on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Red Pod. Pause. Do it, freaking do it.
Before we break down each pick, I do want to talk about post draft grades. And Mel Kiper gave the Seahawks an A in the second best grade overall. And I think since he gave the Seahawks an F in the draft class where they have first spot Hall of Famer Bobby Wagner, still could be a Hall of Famer Russell Wilson, and a very competent player Bruce Irvin. How bad he missed on that grade. He's always given the Seahawks kind of mid grades, but when you look at scheme, team fit, positions of need, a lot of different things, the Seahawks did a pretty bang up job in this draft
Yeah.
overall.
And I mean, the lowest grade I saw was a B plus, I believe, about in the league. Docs killed the draft this year. John Schneider, Mike McDonald, the whole coaching staff, I believe, had input on this draft. I think that they killed it. And yeah, there's not the, like we were talking over the weekend, right? There's some players that you didn't like. There's players that I didn't like. There's players that we loved.
Well, and
Um,
you look at it a little bit more because some of these guys you weren't focused on, right? And I even
sure.
said it on lead up when we did the Seahawks 7 man or 7 round mock that some of the guys I kind of lean towards due to value or positional fit or my own familiarity with them, right?
Yeah.
And so some of these guys weren't guys that weren't necessarily in our repertoire, especially when you get, you know, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh round. Not all these guys are household names unless you're watching them every week. And I guarantee you that there are a bunch of dudes out there that might even tune into this episode to hear about their boys that got drafted by the Seahawks. They'd be like, "Oh, they're so wrong. That guy's such a stud," or "Oh man, they hit that right on the head,"
Mhm.
or "Oh, they about to learn." Right. So
Yeah.
it's when you're watching those guys, you obviously as a fan, that's part of you're a fanatic. There's fandom. There's you have an enhanced sense of pride for the people that you take time out of your busy schedule to
Mhm.
dedicate time and energy to. And so a lot of these guys are going to become household names. Some might not even make the roster, but
Mhm.
it's
It's
right
always a
after draft. You got
possibility.
to be fun, and we're gonna highlight stuff, and we're gonna be real with it. So
Yeah.
let's jump right in. Pick number 18. The Seahawks do just as we said in our mock draft, and they draft Gray Zabel, guard, center, tackle out of North Dakota State University.
I love this pick. I mean, it's what has been mocked to them the almost the entire draft cycle. It fits a huge need on this offensive line. Instant starter. It makes the other knuckleheads all battle for a spot. Um, I just think that Gray Zabel is the rough, tough guy to help protect that left side of the line. I believe they're going to slot him in at left guard, and it adds tremendous help to Charles Cross. I mean, this is something, and it's the blind side, right? You have to protect your quarterback's blind side, and I just think that they're a good 1-2 combo out on the left end.
Well, and I think Tyler Booker going earlier than we anticipated. I
Mm-hmm.
think that if Tyler Booker's still on the board, that the Seahawks might have been comfortable trading back a little bit. I think
Yeah.
this is a guy that they highlighted, and kind of my pros for him is, you know, Max said this in the presser. He really got on our radar at the Senior Bowl. He really showed his worth, held his own. Comes from a winning program. These are my pros for him. He's got position versatility. He's got a Here's a common theme about a lot of these guys that we're going to talk about today is RAS, relative athletic score, was very high for the position group. The only real con I have from him is, yes, he is coming from a small school. You've seen some guys make those jumps from small schools. Usually, I mean, you look at Carson Wentz, same school. It was good until he wasn't. Trey Lance also comes from that school. It has
A lot different story about Trey
a lot
Lance,
of
though.
different stories, but then you also look at like Dylan Radens, who was a mid-second round pick from that same school, where it's been a little bit rocky, but not real injury concern. This guy is athletic as they come. He is a mauler. He's got great technique, can hold up in pass blocking and in run blocking. It's the guy we wanted.
It's the exact guy that I wanted because I think you were on the fence about it for a little bit. But when they drafted Gray Zabel, it was quick. They even said in their press release their top rated offensive lineman that they had on board. Um, I just think it's perfect fit. He's just got to switch it out for some Rainiers.
Well, we'll see. Um, what grade do you give the Seahawks for Gray Zabel?
An A. I give him an A. He's an instant starter, an instant like impactor to this team to make them better. So I love this pick. I'm giving him an A. Coach Red, what do you got?
I gave it an A plus, so apparently I liked it more, and I liked it in the lead up. I just thought the 18 might be a little bit high, but with how the draft was playing out,
Draft
I thought
got
this
weird.
was I thought this was a good spot for him,
The
and
draft got really weird.
it was a funky one. We knew that coming in. That's what we said even on the whole lead up. This was a weird year for the NFL draft, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
just so many different question marks, so many different directions that guys could go and teams could go. Um, Also, at the end, I may or may not give you a fun nickname for the player, like we typically will do. Might not do it in a full episode because Kane is not very good at making nicknames. It's not part of his generation. So let's give it up for 50 Shades of Gray.
I like it. I like that one.
All right. The next pick the Seahawks made, they move up in the second round, up to pick 35, and they pick Nick Emanwari, safety out of South Carolina.
What an athletic specimen this dude is. Highest graded safety in combine history. This dude is a freak in a bottle, man. People compare him to Cam Chancellor. I see it, but I also think that this is going to be Mike McDonald's own version of Kyle Hamilton. He is going to shape him into a fearsome safety. He's got all the tools. Great in coverage. I believe he had a pretty good pick. Pretty good interception numbers last year or throughout college. In all, he is a hit stick machine. The big con though is he is going with that high motor that he has, and he can miss tackles. And I think that's something that they'll clean up, right? I don't think he's an instant starter because Kobe Bryant has worked his tail off to have that starting point. But I do see Nick Imawari playing a lot this year in different types of packages. They're going to get him on the field. He's a freak out there. And just this was honestly one of my favorite picks in the draft. I knew they were going to get him. He was a Seahawks player. Like the profile of Nick Imawari is what the Seahawks go after. I think he's going to be a great Hawk, and honestly, my favorite pick in the draft. So, Coach Red, what do you got on Nick?
Um, a lot of the same points you had. Throw in, he was first team All American last year. Um, Probably had one of the best quotes after the draft too, when stating, hey, someone's coming over the middle and you see the ball in the air, are you going for an interception or a big hit? And he goes, if it's against the Niners, I'm going for the big hit. Everyone else probably going for the INT. So
Yeah,
you
love
love that
that.
fierceness and know he's aware of the bad blood that is between those two teams. The one
Yeah.
thing I will say is you do, like you pointed out, yes, there might be times where he misses tackles because he's going so quick, so fast. But in some of that too, it plays against him in play recognition. He
Mm-hmm.
has the physical tools to recover. And you've seen that with Reek, right? Reek's got
Yeah.
all the tools, and there's been times where his athleticism bails him out.
Mm-hmm.
But also with Nick, there's going to sit there, and they've already said they'll play him as a big nickel, and you're probably moving Spoon outside in those situations. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you can still play Kobe Bryant in the ball hawk spot. You can kind of play him matched up on a tight end, which would be a matchup
Phenomenal.
nightmare for the other team. And then
Yeah.
you've got Julian Love just coming down and being that box safety. You can get creative, you can get multiple. And like you said,
Mm-hmm.
this is a type of guy that has the versatility of a Kyle Hamilton. He's not as polished, I would say, as
Mm-hmm.
Kyle Hamilton was coming out of college, but
Sure.
he is more athletic.
Yeah, and I think that this is just you're just gonna see another Mike McDonald project come to light, right? We're gonna see what he probably brings out of Spoon in year three. And I just think the development of Nicky Mawari is gonna be one that we study for ages because I feel it in my bones that he's gonna be such a great player.
What grade do you give the Seahawks for this
A
pick?
plus. A plus. This dude is a
Shocker.
freaking freak, dude. Coach Red, what do you give him?
I give him an A plus as well. It's another guy that we wanted to go at 18, thought it was too high, especially with how safeties were coming off the board. It wasn't necessary, right? To go
Mhm.
there. There was a couple of teams I thought that he could slot into at the tail end of the first round. Doesn't go there. Seahawks get aggressive, go up and get him. And my nickname is going to be Nick the Freak Imanware.
Like it. Uh, uh,
All right. Pick number 50. The Seahawks select Elijah Arroyo, tight end out of Miami.
so I got a couple things about him. The one thing, my little con is great hands, or not con. Pro is great hands. I had one drop in college. Big thing, injury pro. I believe he missed 2 years due to injury. So there's not really that much out of him. Um, but it's somebody who can get open over the middle. And I think that this is going to be a guy who plays early and plays often. It might be button no fan out. So you just might run him and AJ Barner. But this is your atypical tight end pass catcher. Just kind of a little safety net. I mean, we like AJ Barner, but he's more of a versatile guy like Will Disley was, where he can get open, but he can also block.
Well, AJ Barner's primarily a blocker. If
Sure,
we're being honest.
sure. Um, but I think this is a good pick here. You needed a tight end. It's a deep tight end draft, and I mean, especially with Colson Loveland going at 10, that was weird. So, Coach Red, what do you got about Arroyo?
Um, He's an above average pass catcher from the tight end position. Wasn't a guy that necessarily was on my radar in the buildup for the draft. Not a name that I had really heard, but looking at the stats, I mean, he had 9 tutties last year. So the guy was a favorite of Cam Ward, who went first overall. And he's 6'5", 200 and almost 60 pounds. Dude, he's a red zone mismatch. Like
Mhm.
this is a guy that, like you said, has great hands. He's a guy that can get open. He's going to be primarily a pass catching threat, especially early on in his career. I think that, especially when you look at the use of two tight ends that you have seen out of Kubiak, that he's going to be on the field and he is going to be involved in the passing game. What I said for a con, injury, sure, but not really known for his blocking. He's more prolific as a pass catcher. Yes, he is more than willing to get in there and mix it up, but I do think that he's going to need to get more coached up on technique and probably put on a little bit more weight to be more effective as a blocking tight end.
I agree. Agree with that.
All right, what grade do you have for Elijah Arroyo?
I'm gonna give a B minus on this one. As you said, it's somebody we didn't really have on our radar. When I saw him taking it, it's like, hey, I like players from Miami, but I'm gonna give him a B minus because I don't think it deserves a C grade. I think he's going to be a decent player. We'll see how much he does in the rookie year, but I'm gonna give him a B minus. Coach Red, what do you got?
I went with the B plus, and the reason is you look at AJ Barner and how involved he was. Yeah, Fant missed a little bit of time, but even when Fant was healthy, you were seeing Barner get on the field. For them to go get a tight end in the second round, they see traits in him that are going to add value to this team, especially with the coaching staff and how they're constructing this offense. So I think that he could be a diamond in the rough, if you will, looking at that tight end room to be the guy that maybe we thought Fant was going to be. Like Fant's got all the tools to be everything you want in a tight end. It's just not all come together his whole career. Yes, this guy could be a little bit more decided. You could see him more, a little bit more of that Jimmy Graham type role. But when you're rolling two tight ends, you can get a little bit more creative with that. So give it up for Elijah Salt Bay Arroyo, because I think he's going to be cooking a little bit this year more than people expect.
Okay, all right.
All right, pick number 92, Jalen Milroe, quarterback, Alabama.
I like this for a multitude of reasons because he doesn't have to start right away. And I think that's the big thing. He was there. And I believe he was the number one quarterback on their draft board. Um, I'm glad they didn't take Shador. Let's just get that one out of the
I
way.
don't think he was the number one quarterback on their draft board. I don't think that.
I don't know. But
When you have two quarterbacks go in the first round and you wait till the third to take a quarterback, he's not number one on your board.
number one quarterback on the Seahawks board.
That's what I'm saying. If he was number one on their board, they probably would have taken him at pick 50. If he was the number one quarterback
Sure.
on their board, he's probably going at pick 50.
All right,
Worst
that's
case.
fair.
Worst case.
I just think that with Milrow, it gives you a little bit of hope, right? Like, granted, they didn't need to take quarterback this year. You and I both know that. But I think the prospect of what Jalen Milrow could be if they could develop him right, because you have Sam Darnold locked up for 3 years, pretty much just on a 1 year deal, depending on how he performs. You also signed Drew Lock to a 2 year deal. I think if you cut ties with Sam Darnold after this season, Drew Lock's your starter until Jalen Milrow's ready. And the big thing with Jalen Milrow, he can throw the ball deep, partially accurately. I think that's the one thing that he's got to really get back his play rec and just get better accuracy on the arm. But his biggest tool is the legs. The dude can outrun almost anybody. Biggie ran a 4.43 or a 4.3 at the combine. The dude is fast. He's like lightning in a bottle. And I think if you could compare him to somebody, it's probably Justin Fields, just a taller version of him. I wouldn't compare him to Lamar because Lamar is generational, but I like Jalen Milrow at this pick. I think it's a good future pick. So, Coach Red, what do you got for Jalen Milrow?
For my pros, he's a leader. He was a leader of that Alabama squad traditional program. Stayed there through the transition from Saban uh, to DeBoer. Well respected, like you said, very athletic. I think he can earn some playing time early in his career, running a Taysom Hill type role that Kubiak used with Taysom Hill, running fly sweep, having goal line. He can throw the ball a little bit, right? He can be that gimmick guy on the field that can help give you an advantage. My cons are he's not very good at throwing the football.
Yeah,
And as a quarterback, that's something I want them to be the best at.
that's
I
fair.
want them to be the best at the job that they are primarily doing, which is throwing the ball. So I
Yeah.
think that's important.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's okay that they took him because they have quarterback locked up this year and they can develop him a little bit more.
Here's my caveat to this: you signed Drew Lock on a 2-year deal. You are going to have to run 3 roster spots for quarterbacks now. You have to do it. So let's say Sam Darnold does not pan out and the season doesn't go as you expect, right? You still have Drew Lock for another year. Next year's quarterback class is a much better quarterback class.
I
So if you
agree.
have a bad year, you're drafting near the top of the draft. You can have Drew Lock as your transition quarterback for 1 year, or that rookie starting right off the rip, and now you're not having another roster spot. That was kind of my big issue with it, especially when
I
wide
believe Mike.
receiver
I think
is
Mike
still a
Green was
spot
still
that you
there.
like. There was a lot of good wide receivers that were still available in the third round. There were some pretty good edge players still available here. I didn't think this was a position of need, so I will trust in the evaluation process of quarterbacks with John, who has traditionally done a good job of identifying talent at the quarterback position. But with how the Hawks are currently constructed right now, this one was a little bit of a head scratcher for me. Okay, I'll just
Be
keep
done before
rolling.
you wake up. Sorry, Preston was saying goodnight.
You're good. Um, what do you give the grade on Jalen Milrow?
I'm gonna give him a C plus here. It said it wasn't what we needed, and I agree with that. I really do agree with that. I like the prospect of what he can be, and that's kind of what I'm going off of. But as far as this draft goes, I'm gonna give him a C plus because it wasn't a position of need. You had two, technically, you had 3 quarterbacks on roster because you hadn't traded Sam Howell yet, and you were sitting there with
Knew that was happening regardless if they took a
sure.
quarterback or not.
Sure, right. But I'm going to give him a C plus. Coach Red, what do you give him?
I'm going to give a C on this pick
Yeah.
just because it's a top 100 pick. Top 100 picks are going to be fringe starters competing for early play time in their career, right? I
Yeah.
think that a better comp for him is Jalen Hurts, who came in to the league, not the best thrower, just led his team to the Super Bowl, right? If he can advance and he can continue to grow, this could be one of those Russell Wilson type picks, right? Third round quarterback. It's it's right there with where John has taken a quarterback before, right? Right in this range, tied for the third round for the highest one ever drafted by
The
John and
Seahawks,
company.
yeah.
So uh, I can see that, but my nickname for Jalen Milroe is the Project because right now he's Project. He's not.
Yeah,
He's not a finished. Uh, he's not finished. He's not complete. He's Project. It's in the works right now.
yeah.
All right, we're gonna go to pick number 142, and the Seahawks select Riley Mills, DN slash D tackle out of Notre Dame.
One thing I look at when I'm looking at his 2024 season is at the defensive tackle position. Started 13 games. That's pretty huge, right? Of course, you're a senior at that point. Injuries aren't concerned. I don't believe he really had to deal with injuries, but
He's coming off of a torn ACL.
oh, well, sure.
So yeah, I think he had to deal with injuries a little bit. He's not going to be available best case until midseason.
And did he? Oh, he must have. Oh, okay. Yeah, with the right knee injury, team captain. Okay.
Nailed it.
37 tackles, 8.5 tackles for loss, and 7.5 sacks. Something I like to see out of my defensive tackle. Because outside of Leonard Williams, I don't. And Jaron Reed got after the quarterback a little bit last year, not very often. And when you throw in Big Cat at the
Reed had like 5 sacks last year.
yeah, not
The
very
interior.
often. That's what I'm saying. 7.5 sacks from the interior
He
is
was moving in and out at Notre Dame. He was also playing edge. He wasn't
no.
just playing straight D tackle.
Well, I mean, it's something that they always do, right? You have Byron Murphy who could play both. You have Big Cat that could play both. You, I
Okay.
like this pick. I don't really know much about him because I don't watch college football. So, Coach Red, what do you got on Riley?
A little bit more than you. A
Yeah,
little
no
bit.
shit, Sherlock.
All right. Now we're on the cusp. Uh inside outside versatility. He is undersized to be a straight D tackle in the NFL. He's able to get away with that in college. He's going to have to put on more mass to be able to play a little bit more on the inside. He does give you that versatility that Leonard Williams gives you. And I do think that that's something that they're going to lean on more and especially want to rotate more as Leonard Williams gets older. I obviously with him coming off injury, I'm not expecting that this year, but next year and the following, that's when you can see him kind of rotating a little bit more, getting some more play time, especially. Uh, I said he's coming off the ACL. Best case, he said he's ahead of schedule. Best case, he's available midseason. But the one thing that I do really like about him, Notre Dame, good team this year. He was the captain of this team. He's a leader. And when you look at a lot of these traits and some of these guys that we're talking about, athleticism and leadership is what you're seeing. Jalen Milroe, leader. Gray Zabel was a leader along that offensive line. Freak athletes with Nicky Manwari and Elijah Arroyo, right? You have a type so far in this draft. You want guys that are going to be super athletic or are extremely good leaders. And I think that you get that in Riley Mills. Kane, what do you give a grade for Riley Mills?
Give him a B for this pick. Just it was a need that was glaring for this team, right? Yeah, you brought back Jonathan Hankins, got
Post
Jaron Reed
draft.
post draft, sure, but you needed to add more to that interior defensive line. So I'm gonna give him Coach Red. What do you got?
I gave it a B as well because I think this is one of those prospect down the road picks where I think he could outplay his draft position, but you're not going to really be able to realize that after year one. This is a guy that's going to take some time to develop coming off injury. And we've seen it with the likes of a lot of people. If you miss your first rookie camp or banged up, you were missing out on a lot of key reps in making sure that you were prepared for that season. JSN, we talked about it previously, missed time during the preseason, didn't have the best rookie year, comes back over 1,000 yards in year two. So I could see that kind of rise. Is he going to be that type of caliber of player? No, but that's why you get him later in the draft too. The only reason that he was drafted this late is because he's coming off of injury. Let's be
Yeah.
completely honest about that. And with the Seahawks, who you go and get Hankins back, you already brought Reed back. You have Byron Murphy. You can slot in Big Cat on the inside if needed. And realistically, you could put Boye Mafe in as an interior pass rusher if you wanted to. You could do the same with Chinonwosu. So it wasn't a position of dire straits, but a more look to the future. And that's why I gave this one to B.
That's fair.
All right. Pick number 166. Torrey Horton, wide receiver out of Colorado State.
And this kid is a freak. I mean, there probably another reason that he fell too in the draft because he had a knee injury in the second half of the year. But I mean, this kid is big. He is first in 2022, 2023, first team All American in the Mountain West.
First team in the Mountain West.
Sure.
You are all American
First
in your
team All
conference.
Mountain West.
There you go.
Second team All Conference. You know, he is an over the top threat, just like MVS would be, right? He's one of your guys that's a burner. I like the value in the fifth round from him. Probably looking at the same timeline. He's or probably a little bit at the earlier part, right?
He'll be fine first for camp.
Sure. But I like this pick a lot. I think it was a sneaky good pick in the fifth round, and we'll see what they do with it. So, Coach Red, what do you got on Torrey?
6'3", couple pounds shy of 200, 4.4 speed. And with that 4.4 speed, that was with him running at the combine. And he was just with him getting off just out of rehab. So apparently at his pro day, he runs a 4.3. So you've got a burner. He's a two-time captain. He's got great hands, right? These are all pluses. He can kind of fill that bigger body receiver. He can be that longer term deep threat because you only have MVS for 1 year. He can kind of mold into that role. Cons. He is coming off the injury, should be good to go for camp. Like I said before, he participated in the combine, still ran a 4.4 coming off that knee injury. So that's a plus. One thing I don't like about him, he doesn't necessarily play up to his size. And I think he could add a little, if it doesn't decrease speed, he could add a little bit more size because he can get bullied by bigger press corners at the line of scrimmage. And especially if you're going to be a burner, you either need to outquick them or make a move, use strong hands, heavy hands to break off that press to get over the top. So as we sit here today, I think he makes the roster 100%. He is that outside deep threat right behind MVS that's going to grow and he's going to learn. I'm excited to see this another guy that down the road, after you get a full season in the NFL, a full off season with NFL training staff, I am very excited to see what we can get in year 2. But I do think he can contribute to this team in year 1 from the 5th round.
I agree.
What grade do you give Torrey Horton?
I'm gonna give him a B plus for this one. I think we're all gonna average around an A for this for the entire draft, how we're grading them. But I think a B plus is perfect for this fifth round wide receiver. I think, as you said, long term, this is going to be a huge deal. So, Coach Red, what do you give him for Torrey Horton?
I give him a B plus. It's a guy that if he probably wasn't coming off the knee injury would have been higher. Another guy, 2-time team captain, leader. Guy that's respected, a guy that I think will not take this for granted. He's going to push for playing time, especially if his knee is 100% coming into camp. He could easily take snaps from MBS, right? So I'm gonna go with the big B plus, and it's on the cusp of an A minus.
Mm-hmm.
All right, pick number 175, Robbie Outs, fullback / tight end, Alabama.
Don't have much to say, but knew they were going to draft a fullback in this draft. I remember when they picked this guy, I told Jeff, because we were waiting for you guys on the we're at the tees, and he said a very loud expletive. So was not very happy about it, but we knew they were going to take a fullback in this draft. I believe what, it's round six or round five.
I don't have the rounds, I just have the picks written down.
Um,
I think it's round 5.
Value wise, I don't really have much, but I think it's more than having Brady Russell be your full time fullback, as he's listed on the depth chart right now. So, got to have a guy that's used to the position. Let's get it rolling. Coach Red, what do you got on Robbie?
I'm going to start with my cons, which are as a tight end for Alabama, the production was limited as a pass catcher. He did run some H-back, but he is legitimately going to be a straight fullback. I do not see him on the line of scrimmage. I just see him as a pure fullback for this team. The one pro that I have for him, I actually have it 3 times. He's a blocker, and he's a blocker because this guy, he has vision like a running back when he is in that fullback position. He's good at squaring people up. He's got good size. He is great with hand placement. He's good with balance, with staying inside of that. If they're going to draft a guy to play fullback, this guy's going to give you some special team snaps as well. But if you're getting drafted at the fullback position in round 5, you are going to make the team and you are going to play. I think that they see him more as a true H-back type tight end that can get in the backfield and be a difference maker, opening up holes. And unfortunately, this does drop Byron Murphy to third on the depth chart for fullback.
He's never going to play fullback. Never.
Not anymore.
He'll
Not with that
he
attitude.
was never going to do it to begin with. He did it what, 3 or 4 times in college?
Yeah, and he was dynamic.
Sure.
King, what do you give a grade?
I'm gonna give him a C. I mean, I have the fullback is not a part of today's NFL, and they're trying to bring it back. So I'm gonna give him a C. Coach Red, what do you got?
A plus. Bring the fullback back. I love fullbacks, and this is a big shout out to my boy Adam Dirty. He loved specialties, he loved kickers, corners, and he loved fullbacks. And if you're drafting a guy to be a fullback, you're going to utilize him. They have an idea for him. He's going to make this team. Go ahead and give me. If you're going to find me a guy that's going to get significant playing time in the 5th round, that's an A plus. It's an A plus.
Sure.
Hold on, let me turn the page over because there are a lot of draft picks for the Seahawks
I
this
believe
year.
they had 11
Well, didn't count them, but I wrote them all down.
because
Pick
when
number
they
192, Bryce Cable Dew. Yep, I think that's how I spelled it. Uh, tackle/guard from Kansas.
I didn't even know they took this person.
Okay, I'll go. I'll take it off. Cons. He's undersized at tackle. That's where he played in college. He's going to be moving to the interior, switching positions. He plays a little bit high at sometimes. It's something he's going to need to fix, especially playing on the interior in the NFL. What I do like about him is he is very athletic and he does have good size for what would be his new position of guard. He's a 4-year starter at Kansas. So you throw him into the group where, guess I'm not going to call him the mountain this time. Lumea, Anthony Bradford, Christian Haynes, Bryce Cable Dew. Throw them all in the mix for right guard and see who wins that battle royale. At this point, you're taking a risk, but this is another guy that had a very good relative athletic score. When we talked about it, like I've said, leaders and athleticism. And this is a guy that shows good athleticism, and especially getting a guy like that in the 6th round, pretty solid value, in my opinion.
Okay.
Can't hear you.
I don't know if they had a sixth.
Well,
They had a couple sevens. Know
well,
that.
they had 3 sevens. I believe this was the pick they got for Sam Howell.
Yeah, because okay. So that might have been a fifth because Sam Howell got traded in the fifth round.
I don't think so because we're coming up to the seventh and it's only 20 picks away. So it can't be the fifth round, unfortunately. What grade do you give the Seahawks for old Bryce?
Let's just call it a B.
That's what I picked.
We do not talk about these grades beforehand. These are all just off the rip. At least for me,
You're
they're off
just
the
you're
rip.
just like you're just like in the bar shooting darts with your hand over your eyes. You're like, uh as soon as we got past Jalen Milrow, we're throwing darts, baby.
That's right. That's
You are.
right.
I'm not. I'm locked in.
Sure.
All right.
See, I was locked in for a Mariners episode.
Well, let's move on to pick number 223. And that's going to be Damian Martinez, running back out of Miami.
See, I loved his draft ball. He's like beast mode 2.0. I'm ready. Let's go. Like if he runs like how I think he's gonna run, he's gonna be a problem. Coach Red, take it away.
He's a bruiser that's got a little bit of sizzle, is what I said. He's got that fancy footwork. He doesn't have the true athleticism or the true power that Marshawn Lynch had. I can see him more in a mold of like a Chris Carson, where Chris Carson was bruising people, but had that fancy feet in the hole. This was a guy, his freshman year, started off at Oregon State. Freshman year, he was the Pac 12 offensive rookie of the year, was a couple yards shy of 1,000. Then he's over 1,000 yards the second year at Oregon State, and then transfers to Miami and proceeds to go over 1,000 yards again. The dude has production. He is 6', 215. He is short to the ground. He has good contact balance. He is not afraid to bowl someone over.
Also believe that
My cons for Damian Martinez in the seventh round? None.
I was talking to somebody at work about this, and they're saying like his yards after contact is insane. That like it was he was on like the only person ahead of him in yards after contact was Ashton Genty, who went pick eight. Like
Six.
pick six, sorry. Uh so for him to have that kind like that is the Seahawks style of football right there. It's run into a dude, break tackle, and just keep going. So give me more of that.
The other thing is, if you look at every running back that had some time last year, right? I'm going to exclude Halani out of this, the UDFA from last year, but Kenny McIntosh has had injury concerns for his 2 years with the Hawks. Zach Charbonnet has had injury concerns in his 2 years with the Hawks. Kenneth Walker has had injury concerns in his 3 years with the Hawks. I think that getting a guy with the production, talent, and style that you want to embody as a Mike McDonald offense, right? Which is physical, run the football. It's teed up for him. And I think that he will start the season as a guy. I think he makes the roster 100%. I think they're going to roll with 4 running backs. I think they're going to have to.
They have to.
And I think that this is an A+ for me. This one was easy.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. A+ all the way.
All right. Pick number 234. We've got Mason Richmond, tackle out of Iowa. Cain, you want me to take this over? You were talking on lead up that you loved this guy.
Well, now I'm kind of looking at him. I'm not. I like the phone call more. I guess that was more of it. With Gray Zabel calling him, that was pretty cool. But we started 52 games, including 43 in a row. That's impressive at the college level. Able to get off the ball in his lateral landmarks and stuff. That's
Don't
also
just
neat.
don't just read from his draft profile. It's called stealing.
Uh,
You can take that information and formulate your own opinions. Do you want me
the
to
one
take over?
thing, sure.
I know that talking offensive line is not going to be your forte. Let's get real on it, right?
Yeah,
We're good with that.
I'm more of position players, dude.
This is a guy that a lot of people thought would get moved into guard as a developmental guard in the NFL. The Seahawks said their plan is to keep him at tackle. He's going to be undersized for tackle, arm length and total weight. I think that Gerald is a more poised fit, but you're going to want to keep a couple tackles. Do I think he can make this team? Yes. Do I think he makes the team? I'm not sure. But the pros that have, same thing you said, started 52 games in college, 43 in a row, comes from a school that is known for churning out great offensive linemen into the league coming out of Iowa. So if I'm going to take my Cain dart throw as the Seahawks war room here in the seventh round, go ahead and give me a guy that has been part of a squad that has traditionally put good talent along the offensive line into the league. Yes, he might be undersized and you don't want to move him, but there's a reason he's going to stay at tackle, right?
I mean, there could be a talk just because he is a little undersized that they could move him to guard, but he does got to beef up a little bit to be a true offensive tackle in this league.
But I do think that because he is a little bit lighter right now, what he brings you is good athleticism and is a guy that could potentially fill in for you at left tackle if you have an injury to Charles Cross. I'm not saying he's going to, but that's what I got. Kane, what do you give the Seahawks as a grade for this pick?
I give him a C plus for this one. Coach Red, what do you got?
I give them a B, especially when you look at, like I said, the starting experience, 52 games in college, to get that kind of experience from a team that is not traditionally known for their offense and especially their quarterback play at Iowa. They This year was a little bit better than years
Mm.
past, but they're typically just great in the ball. And if you're looking for a team that is saying all they want to do, all we want to do is run the ball, uh, it's a bang of pick. Go ahead and give me a B for
Yeah,
this part of the draft.
and this could be an awesome Dennison story, right? With how he is with the offensive line, you can
Yep.
see something out of it.
All right, the final pick the Seahawks made in the 2025 NFL draft is pick number 238. And it's Ricky White, the third wide receiver out of UNLV. Running Rebs. Shout out to Saunders.
Welcome, our kick and punt returner. He he's probably gonna do it. Uh, uh
Ran a 4.6 at the combine, ran a 4.4 at his pro day. Your pro days are usually timed a little bit quicker because you don't have as much exactness as you do at the combine.
but also in 2024, he's Mountain West Special Teams Player of the Year. That's huge. They drafted for special teams in this, and I think that's not talked about enough. You have to have a good special teams as well. I believe this guy's going to be the kick returner. I think his IQ, just the shiftiness that he can have, I think will do him well. So, Coach Red, what do you got on Ricky White third?
What I like about him, let's start with the pros. Led UNLV in receiving yards 3 consecutive years. And like you said, Mountain West Special Teams Player of the Year. He blocked 4 punts last year. I think that he edges out Derek Young for a roster spot, which is Derek Young's a guy that's been near and dear to my heart. He's one of the first drafts that have broke down on this podcast. Really dove into him, the uniqueness that he brings, but you haven't really seen him take that step outside of being a special teamer, right? This guy gives you a little bit more versatility. He is smaller than Derek Young, but with that acumen, I think he can make this squad in the seventh round. My cons are this is a pretty deep wide receiver room just when we're talking about amount of guys.
Mhm.
He's got inside outside versatility, but when you look at the likes of the guys in front of him, MVS, JSN, Cooper Cup, Torrey, Horton, now thrown into the mix, Jake Bobo, Cody White.
Yeah.
I think he's gonna. I don't think he's gonna be out there catching a lot of passes unless they get just decimated by injury. He also needs to add some strength. He he is shifty. He can run a lot of routes, but his contact balance is not very good. He gets knocked down pretty easily, and especially when you're saying this is the guy that's going to be our kick and punt returner. I don't love that if a guy's going to take a bump and fall down. You've got guys flying at full speed. You need to
Mhm.
bounce off that a little bit.
Sure. Sure.
But I think with that special team acumen and his ability to go block bunts, it's not an easy thing to do, right?
Mhm.
So if he could do that 4 times 1 year, I'd love to see what he could try to do in the NFL. What
Yeah.
grade do you give the Hawks for this pick?
I'm gonna give him a straight B for this one. Coach Red, what do you give him?
B plus because the Seahawks are a team that I think traditionally does pretty well in the special teams, and they put a priority right. They drafted Michael Dixon in the 5th round. They went and signed Jason Meyer to a pretty decent deal, right? And you look at some of these guys, yeah, their special teams didn't work out. Laviska Shenault was a prime example. That's a guy that you expected to do big things on special teams. Didn't end up panning out. So you move on. The Seahawks prioritize special teams. I think this is a good pick that helps fill that need. And he still did lead UNLV 3 consecutive years from receiving. So I mean, let's be real. The guy can move and shake. Granted, not the top conference, but this was a UNLV team that was ranked in the top 25 at one point
Mhm.
this year.
Um, did any of the UDFA's get your eye?
Yes, they did. I actually wrote down my top one, and it is Jared Ivey, edge defender out of Ole Miss. This is a guy that some draft pundits had as early as a 4th or 5th round grade on. This is a guy that has got after the quarterback in the SEC, which usually has pretty darn good offensive linemen. He's quick twitch, and plus, I just love saying Ole Miss. But
Sure.
he's a player that I think could be body type, play type, similar to a Boye Mafe. Um, just kind of that weird athleticism that kind of sneaks up on you. And I think he's a little bit more polished than Boye was coming in, but this is a very deep edge room, I would
Mhm.
say. They have veterans and younger guys. So his path to get on the field isn't straightforward, but
It's
I
a little
think this is a
difficult.
guy that can make the team.
There's one guy that caught my eye from the whole UDFA. It's that 6'7" dude out of UNLV. The only like thing is apparently he cannot catch the ball. Like that's like his big con. But like a 6'7", like 250 wide receiver, that's nuts. And also they said a camp invite to Julian Love's brother. So that's cool.
That is cool. And I think what the Seahawks did in this draft, when you look at what they needed coming in, we talked about it in the buildup, getting another running back. It wasn't pressing, but I think it was needed.
Mhm.
Going and attacking the wide receiver room was a need. Going and addressing the interior offensive line was a need. Getting another tight end that could be a difference maker was a need for this team. Going and getting another safety, which I think was a need. Yeah, I did like what Kobe Bryant did last year, but at the same time, you got to sit there and look and go, okay, was the start last year? He's been injured in the past. That room's pretty light. And going and getting a guy
Also
with that
the
acumen is great.
and also the money aspect. Because I think if Kobe Bryant puts up another good year when he goes to free agency, he might get paid. I mean, he's a good safety. He's a good transition safety.
I don't
So
think. He's not going to get paid the big bucks. I think that he could be affordable, but when you're starting to gear up for contracts where you're going to have to make a decision on Reek, you're going to have to pick up money on Cross and Lucas and Spoon here in the near future, JSN. These are all things that you are looking at down the road. So some of these guys can fill some of those roles and some of them can't. Some of them are going to try to create their own path and do it a little bit differently. And it's going to be exciting to see. And that's
So,
why you sit there and when you hear the national media applauding what the Seahawks did. It's not been the norm, right? So
mhm.
being able to see that and guys that we have looked at throughout this process and talked about as being good fits for the Seahawks, especially the first two guys, makes it all the more better for us.
So last question I guess I have for you is what was Coach Red's favorite pick of the draft?
My my favorite pick of the draft was Nick Imanwari because
Oh
I
yeah, it
think that
was.
he has some of the highest potential out of anyone in this draft to become a national presence.
Yes. I agree with that. I think he is the the upside. I don't know if it has that much that like the ceiling is so high on him that like he's such a physical freak. And if you can just fine tune him, he's going to be a problem for many, many years.
And my best value pick was Damian Martinez in the seventh to get a guy, like I said, that basically ran for over 1,000 yards every year in college, and especially his rookie year at Oregon State. He
Yeah.
wasn't, or freshman year, he wasn't getting the bulk of the carries until later in that season. He was one of the main reasons Oregon State beat Oregon in the Civil War
Mhm.
because they all they did was run the ball in the second half, and a lot of those carries were going to Damian Martinez, and he was slicing and dicing a very good Oregon team. So
Yeah.
the value in there is insane.
So my value pick of the draft would have been Tory Horton. I think that's a really, really good spot for him, especially, as you said, he would have went higher if not for the knee injury. And I just think that he is going to be fighting MVS for reps. So
Yeah, and I think that our follower count could go higher as well if we get some follows over on social media. You can find me, your boy Coach Red, on X, the real Coach Red, on Instagram at the real underscore Coach Red, TikTok at the real Coach Red. Also find the show over on YouTube. Search Kicking It with Coach Red. Like, subscribe, hit that bell notification, and leave a comment or two. Kane, where you at?
you can find me over on Twitter, Kane2406, TikTok, and Twitch, Kane0624. Also follow the show's socials over on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Red Pod. False. Do it, freaking do it.
And as always, stay fresh.
Stay fresh, peeps.
Peace.